the biggest impact that AI can have
Yeah,
on our business is the due diligence process. So lease abstracting, site development, site plan development, budgeting, construction cost estimating, all those things matter and typically take a long time. But I think it was just announced at the most recent ICSC in Palm Springs that their agentic AI is coming out with a lot of new PropTech tools that will enable developers to really be nimble in terms of site planning and planning out a project for future tenants, which is really remarkable, particularly with the PropTech that's around the corner, which is
incredible.
really exciting.
Welcome back to the AI Edge podcast, where we sit down with commercial real estate leaders who are using strategy, system, and smart innovation to create real returns and real ownership, not just pretty spreadsheets. Today's guest has been living and breathing retail and shopping centers for nearly 3 decades. He's the president and CEO of Center Dynamic Partners, a firm focused on shopping center development, investments, and management based in California. He has deep experience across tenant mix, leasing, development, and value creation in retail centers. He also went back and earned his executive MBA in leadership and finance from Mendoza College of Business at Notre Dame. Go Irish.
Go Irish.
While still leading in the industry, George Arce Jr. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
George, thrilled to have you here. When someone asks you in real life, what do you do? How do you normally answer that?
I give a very straight answer, and that is I make my investors money or do my very best to do so. I'm in the money making business.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I like that. So, how did you land there, focusing on shopping center development and investments specifically?
Well, I started my career off as a consultant broker. I started that career off in Asia, came back into the US in the 90s and started investment sales, quite frankly, for Marcus and Millichap offshoot firm in San Francisco and sold quite a number of shopping centers. And then I got the calling to be a principal and started doing that in the late 90s. And since the 90s, I focused on a specific market segment, which is the neighborhood shopping center. And that's evolved into grocery anchored retail, community centers, and things like that. And it's always been, the first part of my career has been more or less focused on return on investment over a longer hold period. And post financial crisis, which was 2008 to I say 2012 in our day, the focus became return on and of investment within a shorter period of time, which led me to do more value add acquisitions and repositioning of retail properties. In simple English, I found stuff that needed help and repair, was under distress, and, stabilized it and sold it for profit. Since then, that's been my modus operandi, looking at value add retail opportunities. So here I am today doing that still. We do have a couple of derivatives from that business plan, and we're now doing vacant department stores. And we're acquiring vacant department stores across the country and repositioning those, which has been a very interesting turn for us at CDP, and we're excited to do it, particularly since retail's been so disrupted, at the mall level since COVID. So it's been a lot of fun to do those projects.
Incredible. How do you repurpose them? What is some of your strategies?
Well, it depends on the mall position in the market. Some malls are, quite frankly, ready to be bulldozed. Other malls are ready to be repurposed. And depending on how the mall performs overall in terms of generating sales, and whether or not they're in a core market, the outlying anchors can be repositioned for mixed-use projects, creative office, medtail, multifamily housing, or entertainment retail, which is the case in our latest project in Ventura, where we took a vacant Sears department store and repurposed it into a entertainment retail project, which now anchors the mall and brings, a lot of traffic. We're bringing a lot of traffic to the mall.
That sounds amazing. Excellent, excellent. So take us back a bit, George. How did you first get into commercial real estate and retail centers? And what were one or two early experiences that really shaped how you operate today as a CEO and owner?
Well, this goes back to my college days. I mean, the college days, I went to school in San Francisco called Golden Gate University. And that was a commuter school. A lot of the international students were there. And I was able to make some friends from foreign students. And the interesting thing about these families where they had a common denominator and they had a real estate strategy which created their wealth. This is early on kind of family office type. And that really intrigued me. So in going back to Asia, and traveling there and actually having some time there, living and working there, I found that the real estate strategy was one where it was not just hold for profit, but actually fix things up, create the value, reposition them. And that's how I got a taste of that. Coming back to the United States, the way to cut my teeth, I felt, was to actually try to sell those to high net worth investors and understand the mechanics of the operations and the investment model. So the first couple of deals I did were larger shopping centers that were in the 10 to $20 million range. And experiencing the brokerage side of that got me really familiar with the nuts and bolts of, the metrics of a investment of that size. And understanding how the capital was formed and why it was invested in the first place, having a lot to do with a lot of other factors such as tax planning, estate planning, exchange dollars. All of those things went into a decision, and that eventually led to my raising capital for purely profit purposes. But the first couple of experiences for me were there was material learning was as a broker in putting deals together and raising money for them or selling them and closing them. So there's all these complex issues that go into a transaction. And that I think laid the framework for me to want to be the capital raiser, the sponsor, the person that finds the opportunity and executes it to completion. So those, I would say that brokerage expertise really planted the seeds for my role as a principal going forward.
That's beautiful. Amazing, amazing story. So you've been leading Center Dynamic Partners since the mid 1990s. So almost 3 decades, right? 3 decades,
Yes,
George?
yes,
So where
yes,
do you
yes.
find yourself today, spending most of your time inside the business?
My time right now is focused on sourcing transactions and looking for the value add opportunities. And quite frankly, that's more and more difficult to do.
Mm,
Notwithstanding the disruption in retail, one would think that there'd be a lot of opportunity out there in retail, but the fact is that retail is not no longer overbuilt the way it was in the early '90s or mid '90s. Now it's a function of functional obsolescence. Is a shopping center still worth being a shopping center
right.
because of all the obvious reasons, e-commerce, purchasing power disruption, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more creativity involved now than just providing shopping. You're competing now with a lot of other factors that drive traffic at a place. So food, fun, family is now more important than ever. And the ironic thing about that is the shopping centers didn't want food, fun, and family in their malls or other locations because it took up too much parking, which
Mm,
was at that time, maybe 25, 30 years ago, considered disruptive to the ability to go into a store and buy things because they didn't want people hanging around. They wanted people going in and out. Now, the sense of place has taken over, and people are encouraged to hang around. The triple F function is more important now with regional and commercial centers: food, family, and fun. It's really amazing to see that transformation. So now I'm trying to look for properties that fit that new generational focus on why people visit retail.
incredible.
So Gen Z is particularly interested in spending more time in malls for social reasons, for
Right.
social media reasons, for experiential retail. So all of that is transforming the mall.
Incredible, incredible. Unfortunately, there's a mall close by me, that I grew up as a child loving that mall. That mall was booming, right?
Yeah,
Blissful.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
unbelievable. place called Crystal Mall over here on the East Coast. I'm in Connecticut, and it was incredible. And today, it's a ghost town. It's sad. It's really, really sad. There's probably, from what it used to be, hundreds of retail areas inside of it to where I think there's like 6 or 7. It's just the saddest thing you've ever seen. So I think that's where malls have gone nowadays.
Well, it's an interesting statistic the International Council of Shopping Centers put out at the peak of the mall's influence in society. There were almost 70,000 shopping centers across America
Wow.
that were at least 8 or 900,000 feet and greater. That functional shopping centers, and that number has dropped around 30%.
Wow. Wow.
Quite amazing. So the whole repurposing of retail has been a big conundrum for developers and cities alike, which, relied on retail for sales tax and other types of revenue. So how that's being reconciled, particularly in the secondary markets or the tertiary markets, is a big, big challenge. And unfortunately, housing is like the simplest solution, but that may not always be the best solution. So right now, particularly in those markets, really challenged on what to do with this retail. And it just sits there empty.
Yeah, it's
It's
sad
just,
for sure.
it's really sad. But I think if there's a basis reset, just like they're discussing with office now, on office conversion,
Same thing.
and the same thing. Unfortunately, a basis reset makes it affordable for developers to pencil out these transformations into different uses. Located next to San Francisco, and right now in San Francisco alone, as of last week, I think I heard at a recent function, there's 35 million square feet of available office in San Francisco
It's unbelievable.
County. That
Unbelievable.
is insane.
That is
That's
incredible.
at the 34% vacancy factor. And so, what do you do with that? The
Yeah,
same thing. So all this disruption, of course, leads to opportunity, but then the metrics need to make sense, and there lies a challenge
absolutely.
for developer and municipality alike.
Yeah, I talked to another gentleman on another episode, and he was talking about office area where, I mean, the pandemic, right? The pandemic and COVID has really changed the whole dynamic of the entire office structure because we realize now that you don't need to be in a physical office. You can do this remotely. A lot of people can do their office jobs remotely. So it really changed a lot. And what he's doing is he's buying office areas and converting them into multifamily.
Yeah, exactly. And that seems to be the most logical play, but that could be very efficient or inefficient
Yeah,
depending on the age of the building, the floor plates, and all that.
of course.
Same as for retail. So a lot of the malls were designed sort of cookie cutter since the 1950s and have evolved. It's a place where it's live, work, play.
Mm,
And so the denser populations benefit from that more than the urban centers.
makes sense.
So it's interesting to see how this all turns out. But for sure, there's a lot of commercial real estate debt that has been due and coming due, where there's going to have to be some type of basis reset reconsideration by both investor and lender to see how the properties can be best repositioned.
Do you only focus on the San Francisco Bay Area, or are you in other markets also?
We're primarily in California and Western states. We looked at other deals in the Midwest, depending on where our tenants lead us, in terms of wanting to be.
Yeah, excellent. So you've been, yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So is there any, if there's more deals in capital or tenant relationships, leasing, asset management, strategy, leadership across the portfolio, what part of the business feels like it lives or dies based on your decisions right now?
I think our decisions live and die based on tenant viability, quite frankly.
Hmm,
If there are no tenants, there's no project. I mean, that's the
right.
of that. And leasing has become a lot more complex. The advent of artificial intelligence and property technology that allows a tenant to be smarter about a site is the same type of technology we're using to be smarter about a site. So it gets to be a level playing field now. I mean, you can just go to ChatGPT and put in a parcel number and figure out what it's zoned for in 5 minutes.
Incredible.
Just before that, you used to have a big due diligence about that. So the intelligence that's available for tenant and landlord is exceedingly better than it was 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
So site selection is now becoming a lot more efficient because of that. So the logical conclusion, development deals now make more sense because the demand for space has been qualified better because of the intelligence, which really drills down to not just mobile phone data, but there's a new company that just came out that is able to track credit card, debit card transactions volumes across the country with various types of retailers, that even the retailers aren't thrilled about having that divulged. So you can really see how a Target's doing, how a Kohl's is doing, or how the Ross stores is doing just by diving into that info, and that could, basically make deal making more transparent in terms of demand.
Incredible.
But for us, if there's no tenant demand, there's no deal. I mean, why would we look at a transaction if there's very little tenant demand? Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Looking at the next 6 to 12 months, George, what are your top 2 to 3 big goals for Center Dynamic Partners?
Well, we have several projects that will be delivered in 2026
Excellent.
and eventually sold. So we're looking at exiting on, realizing investments in 2026 and 2027. And next year, I think we're poised to acquire 3 different department store boxes that we currently have in contract with tenants in tow. So we already have commitments for those, which is critical for these types of boxes because it's very difficult to lease out 160,000 feet.
Very
It's
difficult.
easy to lease out 1,600 feet, but much more difficult when it's 160,000 square feet. So the boxes we find intrinsically attractive. The price per pound is very, very attractive, but the cost to stabilize is very high. So
Mm,
without tenant interest, it really is difficult to make those things pencil because you don't know how long things will be vacant, and therein lies the challenge.
incredible. Incredible. So why are these priorities right now in the market with the way retail and shopping centers are evolving? Why are these priorities?
Well, we need to recycle capital. So our investors have been in the typical hold period for us. The max for us is 3 to 5 year holds max, and we try to effectuate multiples that are in the 2 to 2.5 range on capital. So that you can't hold things long term that way.
Absolutely not. In a business like yours, George, where you have development, leasing, operations, investors to balance, what parts of your day to day feel slow, manual, or heavier than what they need to be?
Actually, there's no particular part of my day that feels heavy because I love what I do.
Nice.
So that
That's
goes
number
without
one.
saying.
That's number one.
The most challenging is making pro formas match reality. That's the most challenging.
Yeah.
We have to set realistic expectations with our investors. We love to say things that they like to hear, but sometimes we need to tell them what they need to hear. That's fine. Are set realistically. That for me is perhaps the most difficult.
Absolutely. How about pipeline and deal flow tracking or tenant outreach and follow up or leasing over workflows and negotiation cycles or center operations across multiple properties?
I think PropTech has definitely leveled the playing field with property management and asset management. I think that it's cut back the need for staff, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in office, same thing. Bookkeeping, accounting has all been outsourced or cut back staff because of the AI capacity, because of the prop tech capacity. The whole leasing dynamic, though, still is very broker centric. And notwithstanding the ability to sell at the site now, as I just described, the relationships still matter. Brokerage is still relevant in leasing and sales, and I don't see that necessarily changing in the near future because of AI. In fact, I think it's going to become much more broker centric because deal making is an art form that takes a lot of human characteristics as opposed to just purely mechanical.
Yeah, I agree. I have always said that commercial real estate isn't really about real estate, it's about relationships.
Exactly.
We're in a relationship building business. The more relationships you can build, the better off.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it. So, if we can make one or two of these areas 2 times faster or cleaner over the next 90 days, what would that change for you? I mean, more deals, more tenants, less stress on you?
I think the due diligence process has a lot of work to do. And I think the biggest impact that AI can have
Yeah,
on our business is the due diligence process. So, lease abstracting, site development, site plan development, budgeting, construction cost estimating, all those things matter and typically take a long time.
they do.
But I think it was just announced at the most recent ICSC in Palm Springs that their agentic AI is coming out with a lot of new PropTech tools that will enable developers to really be nimble in terms of site planning and planning out a project for future tenants, which is really remarkable.
That would be incredible.
Yeah,
That takes so many hours, if not days or weeks, in order to go through the due diligence process.
that's exactly right. Well, most due diligence for a deal of our typical size is 30 to 45 days. We can cut that back materially with the prop tech that's around the corner, which is
Incredible.
really exciting.
That's exciting. So when you look at your center dynamics partners and ask, are we winning? What numbers or metrics really tell you that?
Well, for us, the best measurement of winning is the returns we give our investors over the whole period.
Of course.
So at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Why is that? Because capital is recycled into the next deal. So if you have proof of concept, and in this case, the most recent proof of concept is neighborhood retail repositioning with tenants in tow. If they know I've done that 25 times over the last several years, that they're going to have faith that the formula works. With the boxes, with the Sears boxes and department store boxes, proof of concept is around the corner. But once we get that, then that will be another feather in our hat with regard to that type of assets, as opposed to the traditional shopping.
Incredible. George, do you have clear targets in your head right for those? Is it more pattern or experience driven at this stage?
In
Or
terms of what?
your metrics?
I mean, yeah, our metrics are primarily financially driven. That's really what it comes down to. And of course, not just issuing a pro forma, but mitigating the risk of that pro forma. So that's where I think the biggest value add CDP has with the business is showing investors that we have a projection of pro forma, but that the risk thereof has been substantially mitigated through either initial due diligence, pre-leasing, pre-construction, value engineering, and things like that. So the unknowns, although anything can typically happen, but the unknowns are sort of there are boundaries to those.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, George, if nothing changed with your pro forma or being able to do the due diligence much quicker in the next 12 months, what do you think that would be the real cost would be?
For the cost of due diligence,
Sure, sure. Yeah, if you still had to take 35, 45 days in order to do due diligence, if there was a way to be able to do that much quicker and faster using AI and AI systems and automations, um, how much would that actually improve, or what would the cost be if you didn't have that?
well, I'll give you an example. We just we're acquiring an $9 million value shopping center, which was built in the 1960s,
Mm,
and it's cost us about $50,000 for initial due diligence.
wow, that's unbelievable.
And that's, it could be a sunk cost if we don't close.
Of course,
So there's always what they call pursuit capital that we have to have available to just vet things out. Now, with what I'm expecting to happen in the prop tech sector and AI, I expect the time to be materially less, and therefore those costs to come down materially also.
that would be incredible.
So, yeah, I mean, we're no longer looking at third-party vendors to do a lot of the due diligence. We'd be looking at prop tech to do the due diligence.
That would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, all the amount of time that you could save, time, money, energy, everything, right? I mean, it would be a game
Well,
changer.
I give you another example. We're looking at another acquisition where Target is the anchor, but we're able to get through our databases and broker relationships 3 different Target leases. Without disclosing and breaking confidentialities, we lease abstract that through AI. And now we've got all the deal points that are important to Target at our fingertips. So when we're negotiating with a renewal target or a buyout or a purchase of a parcel, we know what the hot buttons are without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees just to have those leases abstracted and understood.
That's
That's
incredible.
a very specific example.
That's a game changer right there. Excellent. George, let's fast forward 12 months. You and I are on another Zoom call and we're high fiving because it's been a breakout year for you and Center Dynamics partner. What would have to happen in order for us to say this has been one of the best years we've ever had in terms of assets, portfolio, or personal freedom?
Well, we've been at 26 that are currently on the market and will be on the market after they're stabilized. I think that's key. In terms of assets under management, that would be approximately 2020.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So if that would happen in 12 months, we'd be pretty celebrating, right?
Yes, we would.
That's fantastic. Excellent, excellent. George, where do you see AI going forward with the
Well,
future?
I just had a meeting with a couple of innovators who were looking for cap. Trying to do is uh, basically take the whole construction value engineering process. You would go to a GC and say, "Hey, GC, this is what I plan to do. What do you think the costs are? What do you think they will be?" So I can put together a construction budget. Well, now that's going to be all AI capacity
That's
right there.
incredible.
They're teaming up with some, large GCs to do that, which is interesting. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because the large GCs have national construction cost experience in different markets, and they can take those labor pools and hard cost pools and reconcile them into a good budget for a project of a certain size that they've already done multiple times. So this will be a subscription-based product, which we will actually be a subscriber to. I can't wait for that, so that we can streamline, as part of the due diligence, the whole construction process. We're looking at an acquisition of a mall right now where we're looking at removing 200,000 of interior shop space from the mall and making that multifamily.
Incredible.
We have several months due diligence at a minimum.
Oh, at
But
least.
that's a beta on the software centered around the existing parking it would be for either podium 2 or 3 concrete tilt-up or 5, 6 story steel frame.
That's
And that intelligence is a couple of button presses away. Isn't that amazing?
that's astonishing. That's astonishing. Would you say 12 months? That would take you 12 months to go through?
I would think that the due diligence for that, and feasibility study analysis and construction analysis would be at least several months
Wow.
minimum. And
Incredible.
this software proposes to do that in a function of minutes. That's just incredible.
That's
And not
astonishing.
only that, it'll site plan the site for you. It'll take the parcels. It'll look at the existing zoning. It'll tell you how far or high you can go, how many feet, and whether the market can substantiate that.
It's like mind blown. Boom. Incredible. Incredible.
If you can reduce that based on, execution, due diligence, then housing is produced into the market at a faster clip, notwithstanding the red tape, and the public gets the benefit of that housing supply. So, it's not all the city's fault, it's just delivering the real estate.
Absolutely. I think that's the future too, is affordable housing. Affordable housing.
Yeah,
Everybody's gotten into that because, just to be honest, I mean, housing is expensive right now and not everybody can afford it.
affordable, and quite frankly, some of these malls and that whole live, work, play formula make a great. The question is going to be, does it pencil? And that's always the question. Stakeholders be willing to do it. So there's all that goes into that, as we're finding out in our big box acquisitions, because if they're part of shopping malls, they're subject to those regulations and those restrictions.
Makes sense. Yeah. That's where all the effort comes in. So it's been great, George. It's been great. Thank you very much. Before we land the plane, I got 2 quick ones for you.
Sure.
So, if you could give one piece of advice to someone building in retail and shopping centers today, maybe a younger developer or owner who wants to be around for 20 to 30 years from now, like you have, what would you tell them?
The first lesson is always respect your investors, respect your capital. It's interesting that over the 30 years, it's come down to probably 3 or 4 offices that support my business. And that's because they've been through the wars with me. They went through the ups and downs. But because I respected their capital, capital has always been available to me. That's the first and probably the most important lesson for young sponsors and developers to understand, because the assumption is, oh, yeah, you can always raise money, but you don't know what kind of people are giving you the money, and character matters in this business.
Incredible, incredible. That's excellent advice. So before we go, for everyone listening who wants to learn more about Center Dynamic Partners, maybe explore opportunities or just follow your work, where's the best place to connect with you online?
They can go to www.centersdynamics.com or centersdynamicpartners.com. Centers is plural, dynamic is singular, partners obviously is plural, and there's a submission form to contact us. So let us know if you have a deal. We would love to talk to you about that or any type of collaboration.
Fantastic. Excellent. So we will drop those links below in the show notes. George, thank you again for taking the time and sharing your expertise and perspective from inside the shopping center world. For everyone listening, this has been the AI Edge podcast with George Arce Jr. of Centers Dynamic Partners. If you got value from this conversation, share it with another investor, developer, or operator who needs it. And we'll see you on the next episode. George, thank you again, my friend.